I think I'm going to move it forward just a little bit. What are we looking at for time right now?
About 7:40.
It's 7:40 right now? Okay, I'm going to fast forward. Like I said, there's a lot more book in here. Those are just a couple. What I'd like to do is move it towards the end, and then I'm just going to read another one. This is much later in the book, and I'll close out with this one. And like I said, there's a lot more stories, and I do, like I said, my whole intent is just to try to write about what this deployment does to our soldiers. So, what any deployment does to, I mean, this is not something that's happening, this isn't new. So, I'll just tell a quick story before I read the final one, but I just got back from my most recent drill weekend. I'm a career National Guardsman. I'm going to be there until they kick me up. And I love soldiers, I love soldiering, but like I said, I only want to make sure that we know the kind of toll that we take, kind of psychic wounds that these people carry with, that I see every day, every time I go to guard weekend. So, like I said, please, again, I know this is ebook only, but take as many of those that we printed out as you'd like. Read the book, review it, please. We'll talk a little more about it after I finish this last story. Tell your friends about it, tell people you know about it. And although I'm terribly, terribly nervous about military people reading it, because that's not a gung-ho book, it's not I don't really make the whole thing sound that great. And like I said, I guess that's too bad. Hi, Ken. Like I said, if you know any military people that maybe could relate, it's something that, like I said, I much appreciate it. So, again, this final story is just, like I said, we all know from the first story that Jerry Mueller doesn't make it to the end of the book. There's not a lot of spoiler alerts in my book. But this one occurs, over the whole arc of the novel, their missions become more and more important and more dangerous. And by the end of the book, they're coming back from that final mission. So this one's called Going to See Janelle Greenway. 2 hours before 2nd Squad was to meet in the motor pool for patrol, Howland arranged his patrol pack, his Kevlar, and his body armor into a neat stack on his bunk, to be ready and waiting for him. Then he set out for the female living quarters. The sun had not fully risen, but there was enough light to see. As he walked toward the main north-south road just outside the building area, his legs strained against the soft gravel beneath his feet. The company had been back from Operation Arrowhead for 2 days, but he was still wary. Mueller's body was on its way home. The last Howland saw of Mueller, he was a body bag, carried ceremoniously down the flight line on a litter toward a spinning helicopter. There was no way to properly account for something like your friend being shot, so the Army told you how. You stood on the flight line in the dark with the rest of the company and saluted a body bag as it floated past on a litter. Howland crossed through the opening in the wall he crossed 1,000 times into the section of the camp with the gym, the Army laundry, and X-ray surgical. Further west, through another hole in the wall, were the female billets. There were no females in Bravo Company, and they'd been ordered repeatedly not to go to the female living area. But he figured he had a good enough cause to go see how Janelle Greenway was doing. As the only person with direct knowledge of Mueller's affair with her, Howland felt it was his duty. Janelle had a military working dog, a German shepherd named Tracer. She was the type of person who could see, without being told, the mission unfolding in front of her. And Howland's platoon had, to a man, fallen for her. She would have heard the news by now. Camp X-ray was tiny, and the Army guys always knew right away when one of the Marines was killed. Howland had befriended one of the Navy SEALs a while back, while working at the North Gate. The SEAL had been training the Iraqi Army, and he always used the North Gate to reach their training camps, driving out into no man's land in his white Nissan truck. Howland heard right away when that guy died. He remembered feeling numb about it, and how he'd simply stopped expecting to see him whenever they pulled gate duty. He entered the female billeting area and walked down the main path, which was lined on each side by trailers. "Hey you," a woman's voice called. "What do you need?" Howland turned. A tough, matronly woman approached him, She was wearing a Marine PT uniform, a green t-shirt, and short shorts. I'm trying to find Corporal Greenway's quarters, Collins said. Mueller had never given him the number of her trailer, and he set out that morning only knowing that he would find her somehow. What do you need to tell her? The woman asked. It's about one of the guys in my company, Howard began his tale. Greenway knows him from the States. They went to high school together. She appraised him. Then she nodded. She lives on the end of the left side row. Thanks. The woman was a mom somewhere, Howland knew. I'm sorry about whatever happened to your friend, she said, and walked away. When Howland knocked on Janelle Greenway's door, she opened it, and their eyes met briefly before she looked off to the side. She stepped outside slowly. Her dog was rattling around inside. She was wearing her PT uniform, and she seemed frail, shaken. Are you coming to tell me about Jerry? She asked, opening a box of cigarettes. I figured someone should. I already heard. She offered him a cigarette, and he took it. How are you holding up? Has anyone said that to you? She lit up and took a long first drag. He was your friend. I guess not. Haven't thought about it yet. Well, I'm fine, she said. She smoked with her right hand and tucked her left hand beneath her armpit. The sun was coming up, and her face was thin and freckled and shadowy. They stood there, smoking. Howland had in his mind a thing prepared where he would tell her about today's patrol, how they were going back out there looking for a fight, to make it right for Mueller. It all sounded deeply stupid when he thought about actually saying it. Howland exhaled, and all he could say was, Jerry had, I don't know, I think you were important to him. She shook her head rapidly, as if to correct some misunderstanding. What do you think was going on? Do you think we were going on dates around here, getting to know each other? I don't know anything about it, Howland said. I don't know what you two had together, but I wanted to see if you were okay. I'm okay. Look, people do two things here. They go back to the world or they don't. Either way, how do you think it would have ended up with us? Howland nodded his head. He felt mean and betrayed. Okay, I get it. I'm glad you're taking it so well. Goodbye, she said. And she was in her room and shut the door. Some guys from his company were jogging along the west wall. Howland walked back to the east. As the sun came up and the base began to come alive, people walked to breakfast. The air was warming up. He passed the Army laundry tent. There was a canopy over the entrance, broad enough to shade about 4 people. Once, when the tent first came up, it had rained. A stunning, powerful downpour out of nowhere, pooling water on the ground in giant lakes and bogs of wet sand. Howland had taken shelter under that canopy, and Janelle Greenway had run up before anyone knew who she was. In Almashad, he had pretended it was the first time he had met her. He doubted if she even remembered that first meeting, or if she was pretending to. As it poured down, she splashed into the puddles as she ran, shrieking with joy, her clothes soaked, her hair falling out from underneath her hat. They stood for 10 minutes together underneath that canopy and watched the white sweep of raindrops crash against gravel. And Howland had loved her in his way from that very first moment, and he had loved her before anyone else, and strongest. And there was nothing anyone could do about it, not even Jerry Nygard. The end.